I know you're listening. You're here because something isn't right. Something feels twisted, upside down. Things don't add up. Hello, human. Welcome to our twisted universe. In this episode, we talk with Anna Axlund from Intune Holistic Wellness about healing with sound, along with other modalities to achieve physical and spiritual wellness.
Hi, and welcome to our Twisted Universe. Today we're going to be talking to Anna Axlund, and she's with Intune Holistic Wellness. Hi, Anna.
Hello. Yeah, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me here tonight.
So we've known you for quite some time now. I wonder how many years has it been? How many years?
At least 10, because I was teaching yoga at LA Fitness when I met you, and that was 10 years ago when I started. Yeah.
Absolutely adored you. We're our preferred yoga instructor.
Oh, it was a pleasure to have you in class.
That was so fun. And so I've been watching you going through all the changes, and you've been to college. And can you tell us a little bit about what you've been up to over the last few years?
So I would like to start by sharing where it began, and it was in Western medicine. And so I started on the front desk in my early 20s and worked my way up into management over the course of 10 years of a family practice urgent care clinic. And it was wonderful. It was great to see the passion that the doctors and the CNAs or the medical assistants had for their jobs and working in medicine. It was really cool to learn about the body. I had a huge fascination in understanding the body and how it worked. Doing medical records, I kind of geeked out on learning the names of diagnosis or just medical language in general was really fascinating to me. However, working in that setting, I could see very clearly how we weren't quite getting to the root of people's conditions. I noticed that a lot of the same people would return, mostly just to refill whatever medication was kind of patching them together just to get by. And there was a really big part of me that knew that there was more that we needed to be doing than what was taking place in that clinic. Although urgent care, of course, we need that when it comes to needing antibiotic or suture repair or, a broken bone. If you need an X-ray, of course, that's something that's important. So my health as well wasn't doing all that great. I was alone a lot in an office, and when I did interact, it wasn't always the most positive interaction. It was either angry patients, or there was a lot of drama that went on in the office that I was working in. And so I just noticed the toxicity and how it was affecting me. And so I just decided it was time for me to make a change. And so I went back to school, like you had mentioned. I went to Clark for their fitness trainer program. So that's Clark College in Vancouver, Washington. That program isn't there any longer, but it was an amazing program. It took me 4 years to finish a 2-year associate's degree because I'm also a mom and a wife and had to work, multiple jobs to kind of piece things together and in order to make it work. But graduated from that in 2015. And as we had already mentioned, I taught yoga for a number of years while I was going to school, which was great because it got me the experience I needed so that once I graduated, I was really pretty set up to be able to support people in wellness. So helping people with movement and personal training, also teaching yoga, learned a lot about nutrition and all of that stuff. It was my first invitation into holistic or alternative medicine when I did my apprenticeship or my internship with a chiropractor's office, working with chiropractors and massage therapists, acupuncturists, etc., naturopath. And so it was really interesting to see the contrast, between the Western medical model and then what the holistic or alternative was offering as far as, really trying to get to the root cause of the issues that people were dealing with illness or chronic pain or whatever it was. Still on my own healthcare journey, trying to figure out what it was that I needed for my body. dealing with some pain and fatigue pretty early on, in my 30s, and also really wanted to get to the bottom of it. I didn't want to put any Band-Aids on it. The Band-Aids weren't really helping, weren't really holding me together. And so I was introduced to sound and frequency healing in 2017. I attended my first sound bath, and I was really blown away by the somatic response that my body had. I couldn't deny that the movement, the twitching, the release, the emotional release. I felt lighter when I left there, and my pain reduced considerably for the next few days after that. And I thought, there's something to this. And so I took some training, about 6 months in tuning forks training. And over the course of that time, really learned the foundations of what sound and frequency healing can do for us. And turns out sound or frequency is the foundation to everything, right? Everything is made up. The whole universe is made up of vibrating molecules, and everything has its own specifically trained frequency that it's supposed to be at. Oftentimes when we experience discord or dysfunction, pain or problems in our body, it's because something has gone out of tune. And so with frequency healing, it's about bringing things back into harmony, and so that everything kind of works together like an orchestra, right? It's like, can't have that one instrument out of tune. You're going to notice big time. So we got to get everything into a state of harmony in order to find that, that stasis and that state that is healthy for us. And so working in sound for the last, I really started getting serious about my practice in about 2018, 2019. And it's been spirit-led, honestly. I did my training, but then as soon as I started getting my hands on with people and working in energy, I started just following my intuition and following what my higher self and what was kind of unfolding in each session. And it was different for every session, but it did form somewhat of a rhythm. So if I can share that with you as far as what a session looks like, you or your listeners might find it interesting.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. And so typically I use a table. So I have a massage table, but it's relatively hands-free. I do work a little bit on the body, but it's mostly just in the energy at the ears and then over the body. And so I use tuning forks and crystal bowls and Tibetan bowls. And so first thing I do is ask the person's body and or higher self if they're in a space of release and clearing, or if they're in a space of integration, meaning bringing in new information or bringing in kind of upgrades for their system, for their body. And I use specific tuning forks to just get the whole system moving. So if they're clearing, I use a set of the Om forks to help raise the frequency of their energy field, as well as clear out and release anything that's heavy or stagnant that's in their body or in their energy field that's ready to go. If they're in an integration, then I use a series of octaves of frequencies that help to just kind of ground it in. It's mostly about bringing in and grounding them down. And then I clear out the core central channel. So the chakras all align to the core channel, which runs through the center of the body, from the crown of your head to the base of your spine. And so I use a 111 hertz frequency along the spine, and helps to kind of flush the core central channel, allowing energy to kind of free flow in that way, which brings fresh energy to the chakras and to the meridians and everything like that. All the while, I'm tuning into the body and the higher self to see if there are any organs or meridians that need to be balanced and optimized. And I have specific tuning forks that I use for those centers or for those organs. And then once the person flips over, facing up, I balance the nervous system. So I have a protocol for that helps to harmonize and balance the nervous system, including the gut brain and the vagus nerve and the heart brain, the head brain, and any other neurological tissues that need to be harmonized and balanced. balancing the chakra system. So that goes beyond the 7 traditional that are in the body. I actually go as high as I can and as low as I can, just to make sure we've got everything in alignment and harmonized together, cleared, balanced, and optimized. And then again, meridians, organs, and any other brain waves or anything else that I'm guided to do. Occasionally, we run into some pretty heavy energy, whether it be attachments and cording or entity, or what Barbara Brennan would call psychonoetic form, which is kind of just a conglomeration of emotions that kind of get stuck in the body. So oftentimes when people have issues in chronic pain in joints or on their muscle tissues, that's what it is. It derives from emotional trauma or just a rumination emotion that kind of gets stuck in certain areas of the body. And so the vibration of frequency does a really great job at clearing and moving that out, and then balancing and optimizing that. So bringing fresh blood and oxygen to the tissues, as well as fresh chi or Reiki or prana, mana, whatever you want to call it, right? Life force energy, just getting it all moving. And then I usually seal it off by patching and repairing any holes or leakages in the auric membrane, the auric field, and usually send people on their way feeling pretty good. And most of the time people aren't tired when they get off of my table. They actually usually feel pretty energized, but occasionally if it was a really big dump that they had to flesh out, they'll feel a little sleepy. And so rest and hydration is important, and follow up. I always try to provide some type of follow up or guidance. And most of the time people receive their own set of guidance and visuals or whatever it is from their higher self while they're on the table as well. So, and then the crystal bowls are kind of like a big wide, just like a broad stroke over the energy field, just to kind of clear out any residual, anything that might be still kind of hanging around, just kind of clears out. So, do you have any questions about any of that?
I've never heard it broke down like that before. I mean, I've been to sound healings before and never really realized the extent of what you can do with that. And like, I'm sure not all practitioners are working like you are. I haven't heard any doing that kind of streamlined detail. It sounds incredible. It sounds
well, and I feel like all of us, if we get them in our hands and just start working with them, I think all of us could potentially create just our own customized way to work with the frequencies. I mean, the frequencies are the same. I mean, your liver and my liver aren't exactly the same frequency, but there is a home frequency range. So, and of course, as we know, the body wants to be in harmony. It wants to be in balance. It wants to go back into that home frequency range. So all it takes is just inviting it in, using our intentions and inviting it in, and your body wants to go the rest of the way and go back into its state of harmony and stasis. And so, yeah, it's amazing. It's infinite, the ways that we can use these, whether it be tuning forks or electronic sound or whatever it is. What I love about tuning forks, though, is they're portable. They're virtually indestructible. They're small. You can put it in your purse. And really, one fork, like I was mentioning, the 111 hertz, does a multitude of things. It's replaced a whole shelf of my bodywork forks. I use a weighted 111, and it literally just reduces inflammation and pain. It increases healing, like I said, blood flow and oxygen to those areas. It'll just melt scar tissue adhesion or trigger points, conglomeration of, as I had mentioned, emotion, but it also manifests into tissues. So that needs to be melted away too. And so, not to mention, it's really lovely to hear at the ears, that frequency.
That's so cool.
You mentioned there's more than just the traditional 7 chakras. Might be too big a question. I don't know if I'm opening a rabbit hole of how many are there. So it goes above and down. I've seen diagrams that show them like in your joints and such. And probably should study the diagrams more, but I mean, how many are there, or is it innumerable?
I feel like it's innumerable. I feel like there are many people that have tried to determine the specific number of chakras that are downloading the physical body, but I think it is infinite in both directions. So from what I can see with my intuition working on people, this is what I do for my day job. So I work on people quite a bit, is from the crown of your head up, there's an infinite number of chakras that connect you to universal source, right? The source, you can call it God, you can call it universe, you call it whatever you want. However, it is life force energy. That's kind of the source tap of life force energy for you as an individual. And then you've got the 7, or I consider a couple more than that. So the 7 don't include the high heart or the core star, which I include those too in the body. And then beneath the root chakra, which is at the base of your spine, just below your tailbone, again, as far as I can tell, infinite number of chakras that connect you to the earth's core source in the center of the earth. And so it's kind of like, that's what makes up the human body, as far as I can tell, just from what I've seen. And so that's kind of the I guess would be the foundation, are those chakra system, the column of light that we are. And then it's these chakras in the middle that are the most important to us, because they're the ones that need the most harmonization, for one thing, because they get clogged up all the time with our emotions, experiences, are the ones that we really need to focus on, honestly, because the other ones usually seem to manage themselves pretty well. But one of the things that I like to do for people is hold the intentions of aligning all of them and then harmonizing them all together, like you would a chord in a piano, right? You just have to make sure that they're all in harmony and operating with one another. And they're foundational to the meridians, which to me are like the ley lines, right? The ley lines of the body, where the energy flows, the life force energy flows to the organs and to the tissues and to all of that. And then, of course, our nervous system is a really big part of that. I think we're just barely chipping the iceberg when it comes to understanding the nervous system. I feel like we're just chipping the iceberg when it comes to understanding DNA and how that operates and works in the body. I feel like there's still a ton to learn as a species around what those things do for us energetically, that interface between our energetic body and our physical body, and how they are so directly related, through the nervous system and through our DNA.
I wonder if the 7 that we're accustomed to are like your connection points into this universe or this dimension, and to move, if you were able to connect to, say, the next 7, you're able to interact with that dimension and move through the different layers. I have this notion about the universe being multiple layers of dimensions, and you tune your frequency to the dimension you want to interact with.
That's
exactly.
Yeah. And this is your anchor in the physical realm. And then you can move up and down that chain to interact.
You most certainly can. Yeah, that makes absolute sense to me, Joe. Yeah, it's a very good theory, but how do we do that? Well, first of all, we got to consider, matter being actually kind of a special thing. I know we all have a hard time with our bodies, right? We have a hard time with this 3D reality because of a lot of what we see going on in it. However, if we can kind of shift our perspective and realize what a grand opportunity it is for us to experience energy in matter, then it kind of changes things. So as far as multidimensional travel, I think that's mostly done through consciousness. And so when we go into our Merkaba and we decide to go, check out wherever we want to go as far as multidimensionality, we can definitely do that. But as far as what happens to the chakras when we do that, that's an interesting thing to try and ponder. I did have one person come to me after she passed away. And the whole purpose she came to me, and this really feels like a huge blessing, was to show me her light body. She just wanted, we were good friends. And, there was the opportunity, of course, to make peace there too. But one of the main reasons, it was almost like the scientific mindset. She's like, Anna, I want you to look at my light body. Check this out. And I looked at her. And from what I could see, at least from my perspective, through my lenses of perception, where they are all light, there were no longer the rainbow colors that we see, on all of the diagrams and everything that we've been taught. That, when she dropped her body, her light body was all just pure divine light. That's all I could see. But they were still there. Like there were still the energy centers that were there in those spaces. And her shape was still in almost a human shape. And so it was just fascinating. Just a fascinating thing to share.
I have
And it
seen
may be different.
I've seen that once before. I did a journey to meet my spirit guide, and I was expecting like a human type form walking up, and it was like this glowing. All I could say, if you've seen the movie Cocoon,
yes, I have.
It's really old, from the 80s, and they unzip their little human suits and they pop out these little glowing balls.
Light body.
Is that what you saw?
Yeah.
Something
yes.
similar?
Very similar to that. Yep. Those just a luminous body, right?
Yes.
And the shamans talk
like the head shape and the arms and things, but there was no eyes or anything. It was just, but you had a sense that it was, I don't know, humanoid. I mean, yeah. I mean, but yours was your friend.
I knew it was her based by her on her frequency. I just knew that it was her, just based on her frequency. You know somebody. It's hard to describe, but if you're sensitive to energy, someone's energy. And if you're sensitive enough, you can almost feel when that person walks in the room without looking who it is, And with her, I just knew it was her. And it was really kind of a cute interaction, because it was almost like, look at my party dress.
Story. That is just really cool.
She's like, don't be sad for me, Anna. Look at my party dress. It was very sweet.
I love that. What a blessing. It is a blessing.
Yeah.
And gives you all that peace,
Well, yeah. One of the things I learned through this experience, not just that, because that was very lovely, but through the work that I do multidimensionally and looking at the energy, the various layers, like you're talking about, Joe, of each of us having multiple layers that create us into our matter, into our material form, is now I kind of lost track of my thought, but just how fascinating it is, just how much there is to learn. I mean, it's like, you're never going to have it all figured out, what I was going to go with that is how it kind of takes the fear of death out of the equation, because we recognize that we are infinite, we are infinite, and whatever we're experiencing here is real, and we're here to have those experiences. So I'm not belittling that by all means. However, I feel like we've lost track of the celebration portion of the death part of the process too. We celebrate life coming in, it's the ancients that still even celebrate the exiting as well. And I think if we got back into that ritual of celebrating life coming in and life going out, instead of making it such a terrifying and horrific experience, then it might be easier for us to move through the whole life experience, right?
There's a light body at the end of the tunnel, so to speak.
Yes, her fancy party dress.
Yeah.
I love that. So I am a Reiki practitioner, and I've had numerous supernatural experiences. I was wondering, have you had any crazy experiences doing energy work or sound healing on people? And if so, what's happened? I mean, is there something cool?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've seen people basically give birth to themselves, where parts of them just kind of slide on out, and then they've got a brand new, fresh person standing there. Like I've said, I've seen entities that were attached to them that we literally just escorted out in a way. What I've learned about that is it's often drawn into a part of us that hasn't been healed yet. And so if there's an aspect within ourselves that is in need of deep healing, that energy, you can call it an entity, will be attached to it until we do the work of addressing whatever the underlying issue is to be healed. And so that's why sometimes you go to a healer, you go to a shaman, you go to someone and want them to move it for you. But then it ends up kind of coming back, and it's because whatever is needed underneath is actually needing to be addressed, whether it be emotional trauma, from this life or past lives, or something else, just something else that's kind of hanging out there. And so, but I have seen that to where that person actually in their process has reached a level of their own self-healing and forgiveness or whatever it was needed, that energy, that entity was ready to kind of clear out and move, help to facilitate that. And so that's really kind of a beautiful experience too, to help liberate them. It's an empowering process for them and a liberating experience for them. And, it takes a lot of the fear away from that kind of stuff. So
were they aware at the time that you were removing something attached, or were you able to see it physically or spiritually?
I can't see it physically. It's always for me through my third eye, or also just through feeling and inner knowing. Whether or not they knew something, I think deep down everybody knows if they have something attached to them. Whether or not they want to admit it is a different story, especially if there is some deep-seated trauma that they have been avoiding, and then maybe using substances or other methods of numbing to try to just cope or deal with it. But that wasn't the reason that they came in. They didn't come in and say, hey, I need you to do this for me. It was more or less like, hey, I'm struggling with XYZ healing process, and I'm at this point in my process. I just need you to support me through this last little bit. And in that process of that last little bit, it's like piecing together a puzzle, right? Spirit works in such a beautiful way where, we'll have part of the puzzle, but sometimes, and this is why we rely on one another, we'll be able to, through our own lenses of perception, see different parts of the puzzle and help piece it together for them together. And then they get to have that great epiphany or awakening or, healing understanding that allows that frequency to shift. That heavier energy can't exist once a person has, raised their vibration to a point of healing a specific trauma. And again, that can only really happen through those higher vibrations of forgiveness and unconditional love, which are some of the most difficult ones to find, especially in some of the most heinous forms of trauma, right? So, not downplaying that either. But when we get to witness that as support people on their path, it's really kind of a cool thing to do. So
It's like finding out what your mission is. You're like, they call you up and they had like a tremendous shift, or they had this incredible blessing come into their life, and they, it's not ego driven. They, like when somebody's come back and reported to me, they had a shift like that. I don't think like, oh, I did the healing. I thought I was assisted and I assisted the healing, but it wasn't really for me. But for the satisfaction of helping is just the most rewarding thing ever.
It really is. There's absolutely nothing like it, honestly. I know I'm in business for myself, so I have to remember that part of it. But a lot of the time, like, I don't even worry about that part. You know what I mean? Where it's like people will say, oh, thank you for spending the time that you've spent with me. I feel like you've spent extra time with me. But to me, I love that time. It's rewarding for me to be of support to that person, like you said, and to, witness what they're experiencing. And yeah, it's not about me at all. It's definitely about just being a witness and a support person on their path. And yeah, it is such a just a powerful reward in itself. And then to be able to do that for your job just makes it that much richer, because it's like, okay, now I don't have to focus on a 9-to-5 day job. This is my job. And I love what I'm doing. And I'm helping other people to heal and doing my part in helping the collective too, right? Because that's where we're at right now. It's like so much is needed, you know.
Have you had clients that like one and done kind of healing, and then others that needed a little bit more? I mean, how does that go?
Yeah, I don't put any expectations on it. Honestly, I've had people even ask me when they come and see me once, okay, how often do I come see you? I'm like, well, first of all, don't ask me. This is for you. And so maybe go home and see how you feel. And, for me, that somatic experience was what moved me to want to learn more about sound healing or expect more of that. And so, um, let them have that process, go home, see how they feel, if they notice that it stays, and how long it stays, if they want to come back. And I have some people that I work with twice a week. I have some people that I work once a week. I have some people every other week. I have one lady bought a package like a year ago, and that's like 5 sessions, and she just knows when she needs it, right? She'll just call me and say, hey, I need to get on your table, and we'll say, okay, let's make that happen, and there's no attachment for me, because I know the spirit's got me as far as supporting me in doing this work, and even in my business, and that the right people that need me at the right time will show up. It'll be divine timing in that way. I really do trust in that.
It's so cool to be a part of that. Um, do you think that doing, like you said, you did Reiki and sound healing, is there any other modalities that you're practicing now, or?
I do some spiritual coaching too. I mean, almost all of my sound healing sessions come with that. We usually start with, because it helps me to kind of know what to look for to in their energy. And so it usually starts with them sharing, where they're at, what they're working on, and how I may be of support to them. And then it usually ends off with what they experienced on the table, and then what I saw kind of show up, and then maybe some coaching as far as next steps and what, how we can work together moving forward. Or I love sharing insights and information on what they can do on their own. I know it's, again, not a very good business plan for me to send people away with all my tools. However, I feel it's more important for them to have these tools to be able to learn how to heal themselves. And so, in fact, I am a Reiki master as well. And so I have some classes starting up in January. I'm really excited. I've so far just done mentorship one-on-one, which has been absolutely wonderful, but just recently moved into a space where I can host a group of people. And so Spirit's like, okay, Anna, it's time to start hosting some classes in groups. And so I'm excited to be able to, kind of broaden that horizon as far as sharing those tools and ways to be able to self-heal and support others in healing. And I was talking to my Reiki master. Her name's Melody, and she taught me over a mentorship. It took about 2 years of working together for me to really fully embody the Reiki master within me. And we were talking about how Reiki needs to be dynamic. It's like Chinese medicine. I understand staying with the tradition that's been around thousands of years. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. Ayurveda, same thing, right? That's been around thousands and thousands of years. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. However, Reiki's only been around for a couple hundred years, and it is a dynamic practice in a dynamic time, and times are changing, people are changing. And so what I'll be teaching is what the traditional has been, and then how I've modified it to kind of fit the dynamics of today and the future, so that practitioners aren't experiencing burnout, that they're learning about, holding good ethics and boundaries, and learning about how to utilize the person's own energy field, their own column of energy and life force energy versus the practitioner's energy, because that's where we're draining. We drain ourselves to try to help others. And so learning how to, just create a healthy balance in that sort of way, not to mention, opening things up to various symbols and pieces of geometry that work well for us supporting the body and the energy and healing. And so
That's so interesting. Did you get symbols downloaded? Like, were you given?
I did get a few of my own symbols, yeah, in that process. And in fact, my Hanshaze Shonen is different than the one that I was taught. I couldn't do it every time I would try to use that one. Spirit almost slapped my hand, was like, no, that's not your symbol. And then finally I started just listening and following the symbol that was given to me, which was just a slight modification of it, but then it clicked into place and was working for me. And so that's part of that dynamicy, is allowing the students to be open to whatever modifications need to take place to make it their own practice. I feel like oftentimes we can be really staunch in our belief structures of tradition, but as the teacher, if we're too staunch in it, then we're not allowing that person to really step into their own mastery, guided by their own higher self and their own spirit, and developing these skills, kind of like what I've developed for myself in my sound healing practice, which includes a lot of Reiki in that as well.
That's for anybody that hasn't tried Reiki, it's very special to me. I've seen profound healings. I've witnessed, and I've experienced some of that draining that you're talking about. When I first started, I worked on somebody that had been pretty brutalized. And I didn't put up enough protections. And for 4 hours after doing energy work on that person, I couldn't walk.
Yeah, you wiped out.
I could not walk.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, yep, it's a matter of recognizing that and knowing, that it's not about us giving our, and sometimes we'll even take on, as a practitioner, especially those who care so much, right? We have a lot of compassion and empathy for people. And so part of the process in this practice is learning how to not take it on, how to allow them to continue to, if they want to carry their own burdens, they can carry them, but you can also give them the opportunity to set them down too, right? That they don't need to carry them anymore, but that you don't need to take them on, or you don't need to drain your own life force to try to support them, and so, yeah, part of that is protection. And also part of it, what I'm learning about is being the stronger frequency. And so, we as empaths, I feel like we are taught pretty early on, or we believe early on, that people's heavy negative energy brings us down. This person, every time I'm around them, I'm drained, or they bring me down. And it's like, yes, that's true if you allow that to happen. However, if you create a little bit of a bubble around yourself that says, that's yours. You can hold that heavy energy if that's where you want to be, but I'm going to hold this frequency of love that says that I'm healthy, I'm happy. And in that process, maybe I'll shift your energy a little bit, right? How about that? How about we lift the heavy stuff up? It's not as heavy as it seems. It's like we're the ones that decide how heavy something is. That no one else decides that, right? It's us. And so if we decide that it's heavy, it's heavy. But if we decide we can lift it, we can lift it. It's just a matter of our intentions and awareness around it. And so, if that makes sense. So be the tuning fork.
Yeah.
Be the tuning fork that shifts the vibration of the room versus the other way around, instead of the vacuum that sucks the life force out of everyone.
So if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, how would they go about finding you?
So I am on Instagram. Intune Holistic Wellness is my tag name there. And then I also have a website. It's intuneholisticwellness.net. And I would love to hear from any of you. I do work virtually. For those of you who aren't in Vancouver, Washington, I can do multidimensional healing and coaching online. Can't do sound healing online. It wouldn't work the same, but unless we, figured out another way. We might be able to figure it out, but the tuning forks are kind of an in-person sort of thing, and they're kind of my specialty. So.
Well, that sounds amazing. I really thank you for your time today, and we really enjoyed hearing about all the modalities. And I mean, my mind is blown. I've never heard it broke down in those kind of details. So anybody in the Vancouver area, Portland Metro, go see Anna for sure.
Yeah, let me just give you a quick tune-up, right? It doesn't take very
Exactly.
long, and it just brings everything right back into balance. And yeah, so good. So thank you. Thank you guys for the honor and the opportunity to be on here with you. I miss you. I
Yeah.
hope, and I'm so glad you're doing well, and don't be strangers, okay?